Hey guys, welcome back. I'm sure most of you guys came from watching my other video, so you just saw me. So in my last video, I talked a little bit about how a lot of the books I was reading in the last 2 months haven't really been the best books for me. And I think what that's about is just because I've been reading a lot of things that have been recommended to me, a lot of things that I've been hearing are good books and aren't necessarily books that I would pick for myself. So this month, I'm gonna focus a little bit more on just what books I really want to read truly for me. So in order to do that, I kind of came up with a foolproof list for myself so I can get on track to reading the things that I like to read again. So one sort of generic thing I definitely want in the books that I'm reading is to feel excited to read it. I don't want to be picking it up because I think it sounds good. I want to pick it up because I'm really excited for the story. Like, what I know of it so far is something that makes me excited to want to pick it up, excited to start it, and excited to get from that first cover to the very final page. So that's just kind of a generic rule of thumb for all the books in this video. All of them are books that I'm genuinely excited to read, and that's the reason that they're in this video in the first place. A second thing that I really want to focus on this month is reading at least 2 of my book of the month picks. This is the 3rd month I've chosen 3 books from my book of the month club in, and because my last 2 months were so bad in terms of finding a good book to read, I haven't read any of the 6 books that came to me in the last 2 months, and I have another 3 books on the way this month. So I just need to buckle down and read the ones that I'm really most excited about, so that way I can open up a room in my heart for more books to come and fill me with joy. So just to remind you, my picks for the month of April were The Age of Light by Whitney Scherer, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and Beyond the Point by Claire Gibson. So those could be potential books that I read. The other 3 potential book of the month selections that I could be reading this month are my May picks, which were How Not to Die Alone by Richard Roeper and Necessary People by Anna Platonic, as well as The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I have 3 more book of the month selections on their way for the month of June, and I know you're probably thinking, well, what about those? How come they're not in your video? The reason for that is because I definitely want to show some attention to the books that got here before them and make sure that I'm getting those out of the way with first. I like to read things that have been on my shelf longest first, and then the ones that are most recent last, unless it's something that I'm like dying to read. And that's just because I don't like to feel like I'm being wasteful by buying books and just never getting to them. That's not me. I definitely only buy books that I plan to read, otherwise why even buy them? And I usually do let you guys know what books I pick before they get here, but not today. I think I'm gonna keep this a surprise for myself and for you guys, just because I think it's more fun that way. Otherwise you guys kind of end up seeing all my books like over and over again, and what's the fun in that? Another challenge I have for myself this month is to read at least 1 of my ebooks, and this month I definitely want to focus on reading Verity by Colleen Hoover because, number 1, it's a thriller and I really want to get back into reading my thrillers, and also it's by Colleen Hoover, which is an author I've heard a lot of good things about, but I've never read any of her books. So I hear that's a pretty good starting point because everybody really seems to like that book. So I really want to get to that. I'm excited to read that just because I've heard so many great things about it. And it's the only book that I'm going to read that's been heavily talked about by other people instead of me focusing on how much I really want to read it. Everything else I'm picking to read for this month is something I want to read genuinely because I'm the only one that wants to read it, not because this person and that person told me that it's a really good book and I should read it. Verity, on the other hand, is the only book that I'm allowing other people to influence my decision about reading it. I feel like that's where I've been going wrong, is listening to people telling me I need to read this, need to read that, instead of really just focusing on what I want to read. Another book that I plan to read this month is The Guest Book by Sarah Blake. This one, obviously, if you've seen my previous videos, I'm reading because this is the book club selection for my Barnes & Noble book club for the month of June. You guys, I'm going to push through even if I don't like this book. I have to. That's what I've been doing with the other Barnes & Noble book club books. Most of them I do not like. I'm not gonna lie. I think that may also have a lot to do with why I haven't had a lot of good reading months, is because it seems like every month the Barnes & Noble book club book I do not like, and then it feels like everything after just really sucks. So maybe this time around I should start with this book, read something I'm excited about, and then maybe the rest after that will be a good book. Or maybe I should start with something exciting and then read this one, let it suck if it does suck, but I'm only bringing positive energy. This book is going to be a 5-star read, and then maybe the rest will follow suit. I'm really excited about reading this book, Next Level Basic by Stassi, but I almost feel like I should be saving this as like my vacation book. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to read it this month or if I'm going to save it for next month when I go away for a week. I'm not going to lie, I'm very tempted to read it now, so we'll see by the end of the month during my wrap-up video what I end up doing with this book. But I think I have some willpower and enough books to get me through this month to be able to hold off on reading this, unless everything seems to suck, and I think that this is going to be my turn it around book, where I can get back on the good ship with a good laugh, and just a good laugh. Look at this book, you guys. Another goal I have for myself this month is to read at least 3 paperbacks. I will say though that there is one readathon this month that I may or may not be participating in. It's called the Romance-a-thon, and it's being hosted by my favorite booktuber ever, Gabby, and her friend Jacqueline over on her channel, and I will leave a link in the descriptions below if you're interested in participating or just want a little information about that readathon. They do set challenges and goals for certain books that you can read during the challenge. It is a week-long challenge, so they have a book for every day of the week, 7 days, 7 books or more, however many you can read. Because that challenge is going on, a lot of my paperbacks actually happen to be romance, or I have a feeling that they could be a romance. I am excited for it. I do love readathons. I like challenging myself. I like goals. Apparently my ebook-a-thon went very well because I was able to read those 2 books from my last video, the Kelman Creek one and the Wolf Hunter Lake one. Moody May in general just didn't go very well because I only ended up reading 4 books in the whole month, but that's okay because I'm going to turn it around this month for sure. So a book that I definitely know is a romance that I may be saving for the Romance-a-thon is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this one is a paperback. It would be part of my paperback goal, and it would be a readathon book. Another book that I own that I think could be a romance is this book by Lauren Graham called Someday, Someday Maybe. It's about this girl named Franny who's trying to become an actress and make it in the big city of New York. So it just seems like it has all the elements that could end up being a romance at the very end. I have to check on that, but I think this one could be a great participant in the readathon. So if it does count, then I will be reading it. Also, Emily Giffin is notorious for writing romances. This book that I read way back in the day, Baby Proof, and just bought at the used bookstore not too long ago, is definitely a romance, so I can definitely read this one during the Romance-a-thon, especially if Someday, Someday Maybe doesn't end up having that romance element that I need to participate. So this is a good contestant. It's also paperback. I bought a newer book by Emily Giffin not too long ago called All We Ever Wanted. I'm not sure if this is romance or not, but if it is, then it will definitely be a contender for the Romance-a-thon. Otherwise, I can read it another time, but I am lining up a little TBR, as you can see, with these 4 books as possible contenders for the readathon. I really only expect to get through 2 if it's 7 days, because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. That's where I usually go wrong and don't read as much as I can. But I like to give myself options. That's why I'm giving myself 4 books to play around with, see which one I'm really feeling. If I start one and I don't really like it, at least I have a backup. And that's the whole point of making a TBR, so you have backups just in case. Other possible contenders for my paperback goal would be The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This was a thriller I started not too long ago. I read Peter Swanson's book Before She Knew Him, which is the first book by him I had ever read, and absolutely loved it. And I was on a little bit of a thriller kick, so I was thinking this would be a good one, but I wasn't really feeling it. Turned out I wasn't as into thrillers during that time as I thought I was. I read probably about 4 or 5 in a row, and then this was like the 6th one, and I kind of tapped out. So maybe I'll be in the mood for this month and get back on my thriller kick. If I do, then this one will definitely be read this month. I definitely want to get back into Peter Swanson. I've seen so many good reviews about all of his books on Goodreads, so that makes me feel good, and this would be a good starting point to get back into it because I already have it. Another good contender would be this book, The Book of Speculation by Erica Swyler. This one is half historical fiction, half fantasy. I haven't read a lot of fantasy this year. Actually, I don't think I've read any, so this would be a good book to read just to be able to say I've read something fantasy this year. Fantasy really is not my jam. I do not like it very much. I find it to be boring and a little bit predictable because there's not really much you can do with a fantasy that hasn't already been done, and to me that makes it dull. Hopefully this ends up being a good read if I do read it. I own this book though, so I'm gonna read it eventually, so whether I do it soon or sometime in the late future, I hope that it's a book that I really enjoy and have nothing but 5-star reviews to give to it. And as much as I thought A Little Life was going to be on my TBR for this month, it actually isn't, because I feel like this is a July book for me, not a June book for me, just because of how big it is and how much I really want to get back into the swing of reading books that I'm really interested in right now. And I'm not exactly sure a very thick book like this is a good place to start. I think I need to start with something a little less intimidating to just make me remember why I love reading so much and find a book that just really strikes me and touches my soul, and then I can move into something like this bad boy come July. If I'm able to make my goals this month, which is reading 2 books that I'm excited about, 2 of my book of the month picks, my Barnes & Noble book club pick, 2 paperbacks, and an ebook, then I will attempt rereading or finishing one of these books that I started and just can't seem to finish for whatever reason. Supermarket was getting good to me, and then I just really feel like with this book, I have to be in the mood to read it, because if I'm not in the mood to read it, it's so bad to me and I just can't stand it. So because of that reason, I think that this is going to end up being a 3-star or a 2-star book for me, because a good book is a good book always. If you have to be in the mood to read something, it can't be that good of a book. Sorry. Educated, I feel so bad about this book. I started buddy reading this book with my friend Oscar, who started his own booktube channel, by the way. I'm gonna leave a link in the description box below. I hope you guys check it out and really love it. But we started buddy reading this book together, and I just have so many mixed feelings about this book. I really want to like this book because this is someone's life, but I just can't get into it. The writing style is so boring to me. I feel like it ended up being more about something else than what was described to me in the summary. So yeah. We all know how I feel about that. And then there's Giselle Bundchen's book, which I really, really love what I've read of it so far. But the issue with this book that bothers me is that the chapters are so incredibly long. So I kind of get intimidated to pick it back up again and read more, just because I feel like I have to know ahead of time that I have tons of time to read this book, because if I don't feel like I have a lot of time to read it, then it's like, why even start the chapter? You can't finish it. You're gonna be on your way going somewhere, and that makes me panic. I hate that. I do not like to start a chapter if I know I can't finish it. That's just a huge pet peeve of mine. I don't like to stop anywhere other than the end of a chapter. That's why they have chapters, to control when you stop reading. It's just that simple. And Giselle made that really hard for me by having chapter 3 start on page 73. Why? I also have Jane Doe on my Kindle, which we all saw like 2 videos back or whatever. Really trying not to DNF the book, because the audiobook was free and so was the Kindle book. And because I got both of them for free, I want to finish reading the book. But maybe it's free for a reason, because it just really isn't as good as I anticipated it to be. And I'm not gonna act like that's a shock, because the ratings really weren't that good. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If there are any other types of videos that you guys want me to do, I'm very open to doing any of those things, trying new experiences for you guys other than just talking about my books all day, although that was my main goal with this channel. But since I've succeeded in doing so, I want to branch out a little bit and do other things. So if you guys have ideas for me in that department, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Thanks so much.